Damn, I was trying to get some water. Hold on. Nice one. Bostonia coming in hot. Let me give that a quick replay. That is so cool. Okay, maybe you'll like it better on the big screen. Hold on. Let me replay it.
Run!
That is a really cool one. Dono unlocked. I would like to see Hunter snort up entire first baseline at a national ballpark, which I can't read that next part. Maybe then Prez would take the border seriously. For the feds in the chat, I'm just kidding. Limes for Friday. Yes, sir. Just remind me Friday, and you got it. The bell is hilarious. That whole scene is great. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Fostonia. I will annotate that real quick. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Tucker Tuesday. What's going on out there, chat? Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's having a lovely, lovely day out there today. What was that, 4503? We're just going to call that stop requested. I am in of I feel like Hutch in that one. I'm in such a bad fucking mood. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to do too much of an intro, etc., etc. Guys, smash the like button. We are less than half. Remember to turn on all messages as to chat. Yeah, I turn it on live chat for sure. Smash the like button. Share it out. Feel free to unlock a couple of donos up above if you feel so inclined. Or down below, I'm sorry, not up above. We have a ton of new donations, a few that are reordered ones, and a few that are brand new. So guys, smash that like, share it out. Do the thing with the thing. If you feel like supporting, do the other thing. It is greatly appreciated right now. Well, it's always greatly appreciated, but right now especially. What's up, Sin? Just learned that Anheuser-Busch just sold 8 of its beers to Tilray, a cannabis company. Kind of hilarious given their sheer debacle in marketing. I don't know what they expected, man. You shit on your customer base, they're not going to buy your product. Thank you, Kiro Soldier. Guys, we're going to get right into it. We have no shortage of tuck for today, guys. So let's do the thing. Thank you so much, Fostonia, for getting us started. Guys, unlock a question mark.
So you worked with Hunter Biden in a bunch of different businesses. What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington.
Yeah.
Graduated Yale Law School and had a very big network in D.C. and brought.
And I'm sure he got into these places very, very honestly.
That know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
The know-how. So as far as I could tell, he wasn't.
Hey, Luna.
Doing legal work. I mean,
Correct.
he wasn't in the counsel's office at Burisma, right?
No.
So the network and the Biden brand.
So he graduated Yale Law and didn't work for Burisma in any sort of legal role. Okay.
Sounds like the kind of key component of
Absolutely,
what
yeah.
he was bringing.
Yep.
Do you think that he would have been in those businesses, not having a business background, without his father being in a government position?
It's hard to speculate in those regards. I mean,
Yeah.
I think when we initially met and he talked about his advisory business, his business that needed to transition from lobbying to advisory and the interest in private equity.
The Biden brand, what is that? Purchasing power. Not... Thank you very much, Daryl O. Purchasing power. And not in the way like, oh, I have $67 of purchasing power. It is literally buying political power. That is the Biden brand. They sell their own power.
It seems
Let me read that one out. What's behind this mystery door? EUWEPUEUWP. Thank you,
you know, it seems like a new and interesting network for us to expand our business. Whether he could have, you know, been in that position, it's hard for me to speculate.
Right.
But obviously, the brand of Biden, you know, adds a lot of power when your dad's the vice president.
And then the president. It is Kung Pao into the fist. Good ear.
Sure. And there was a time, maybe 10 years ago, when private equity, maybe like AI now, was just one of those terms people were throwing out. I'm in private equity.
Right.
But the
Damn, guys, we are over 10% to goal already. Nicely done. I always forget to say this on the top of the show, but we have one last McKinley package ready to go out. And if we fill the bar, we can get the long forgotten horsecock just for Dear Viper.
mechanics, having done it,
Or a song. Whoever gets us over the end can pick whatever they want.
coming from a business background yourself, are kind of complex. Are they not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a complex business. Takes years of training, but again, the initial idea around the business, they were going to provide, you know, the government insight and an additional network to raise capital, and then, you know, deal with regulatory issues that you might have at the corporate level.
Right. Regulatory issues.
Exactly.
Okay, so that would be more his area.
Right. That would be his area.
But did he have a sophisticated understanding of regulation, do you think?
I think that he led a team that had a sophisticated.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, he has none. Naturally, he has none.
Because I lived in Washington a long time, around a lot of regulation. Also, a very complex area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you know, you got to be an expert in
Colt just says have some money. Thank you, Colt.
knowing the guy, and he was the guy that was the expert in knowing the guy.
He was an expert in knowing the guy.
Right.
And who was the guy he knew?
Well, he knew a lot of people, but obviously there was some familiar, you know, his brother, his father, some of his father's siblings. So he knew a lot of people. And obviously I know you're pointing to, you know, the father being the key relationship.
Well, no, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, Washington's not a money town.
Right.
You know, people aren't in business in Washington for the most part, and most people don't have business skills that I've noticed in 30 years of living there. So really the business of Washington
I need Go for Chucks. Who doesn't need Go for Chucks?
is selling access. That's what it looked like to me.
Yes.
Not just under Biden, but like,
Yeah, no,
that's
I
what
think
people
that's.
do.
I mean, I think that's one of the like core misconceptions. I mean, it seems like when understanding a
Hope he likes my face versus fist technique.
regulatory environment means selling access at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's how I
Betty.
interpret it, and I think that's how
Betty.
most people in Wall Street, whether they admit it or not, interpret it.
Yeah. So we've got a complex business that intersects with government. We need a guy who knows a guy.
Right. How do I, deal with getting a guy a visa that needs to come over for a business deal?
Right.
Call our lobbyist that knows the guy in DHS or used to work in DHS or, in Customs and Border Patrol or the people at the embassy and state.
That's a lot of nuts.
They might be able to help. So there are very tactical elements that are regulatory and compliance and governance that you have to go through, and you got to know the guy that worked at the old agency that now has the lobbying firm that can go back to the agency and get things put to the front of the line.
So the reason I'm asking this is because it's not to give the Bidens a pass, hardly, but when people say, well, there's some question about whether Hunter was trading on his father's name, if you live in Washington, that's the whole city right there.
Right. I think you know the answer to that. At the end of the day,
Right, so
he had the best advantage to do that because of where he was. And, we thought that when we went into business, this was a great opportunity for us.
So I get it. And you're not the only one who did that.
Right. There were a lot of
Hunter
businesses.
Biden's not the only son of a famous government official who's done this, right? At all.
He's just the current one and the only one who's broken, I don't know how many federal laws and try to get immunity based on one thing to get off of everything else. He is people get real uppity when I say this, but Obama. The Bidens are the most corrupt family that have ever been in power that I can remember.
But I just wonder, when you hear people say, well, it's kind of an open question.
Right.
About why they hired Hunter Biden, that's pretty disingenuous, no?
Right.
It's not an open question. They want power from the president of the United States or vice president, thus president.
Right. I think at the end of it, so when you look at the whole, there are people that maybe were, sons or relatives or brother-in-laws of other high-ranking officials, but I think what we ran into and with what Hunter ran into was almost like an Icarus issue. So he got it was too close to the sun. It was too good to be true, and the connections were too close and the scrutiny too much.
Yes.
And it ended up destroying, it left a wake of a lot of destruction in business over a number of years.
So how many, it's been reported and you have said that there were occasions when Joe Biden would call in.
Oh, the Clintons are definitely up there.
With clients present on a speakerphone.
Right.
How many times do you think that happened?
I mean, over a 10-year partnership, I would, the number I'm going with is 20. That's probably the amount that I kind of reckon. Yeah, a lot, you could say.
So Joe Biden, who's very much a product of Washington, of course must have known that he was calling in to effectively a business meeting that his son was having. I mean, he must have understood that was kind of what his son was selling.
Well, it's hard for me to speculate on that.
He has probably so many crosshairs on him, especially after doing this interview. He's like, I'm not taking a fucking chance.
But I guess my question, just to keep it to the facts, Joe Biden, then the sitting vice president, knew that there were Hunter's business associates in the room.
Yeah, I think I can definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and or if I was there, I was a business associate too. So I think, or if, any of the other colleagues from the DC office or the New York office were there. So yeah, at times there were. From the, to be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff for anyone in the world.
It's been reported, and I know that it is true, that Hunter and his brother were very close to their dad.
Absolutely.
Which I think is great.
Yep.
I've got a lot of kids. I'm very close to them, talk to them every day.
Yeah.
Never called them on speaker during a business meeting. That's weird. You've got a lot of kids. You're close to them. Do you call them on speaker during business meetings?
Oh, hey, Dad, Vice President, Father. I'm just here at my business meeting. How are you? Totally normal.
Do I call?
I mean, what is that? A grown man calling his dad on a speakerphone during a business meeting?
Right, and to be clear, sometimes the call was coming in and the speaker would go on. So it's just the president. You have to be, I mean, you understand DC, right? So the power to have that access and that conversation, and it's not in a scheduled conference call, and it's a part of your family. That's like the pinnacle of power in DC.
100%. I guess I'm pivoting against the lie that I'm hearing people tell with a straight face. Congressman Goldman, for example, that we don't really know what was going on. Really? You're taking a call from the vice president and you put it on speaker. It's not just, hey, Dad, I'm in a meeting with some buddies.
Right.
It's, let me put my dad, the vice president.
Hey, son, who happens to be in the room with you right now during your totally normal business meeting? Do you have names? Do they have any questions for Mr. Me, Dad, President, Vice?
A speaker.
Yeah. Yep. In the rear view, it's an abuse of soft power, I'd say.
An abuse of soft power. Interesting. When did you meet Joe Biden?
Joe Biden, I met the first time probably at the 2000 convention.
Yeah, I'm going to tell my dad on you. I'm going to tell him you wouldn't give me that $10 million deal. My dad will hear about this, and he will have one word to say about it. And the
I think it was in LA, and then Boston was 2004. So those two times I probably shook hands as they made kind of the power circles around the. You've been to them through the skyboxes, and then following that, really when our partnership started in 2008, 2009ish. Conversation started. That's when I re-met Hunter and actually had a sit down and a meal with him.
We only did like 5 8-balls. Hey, poltergeisha. I'm going to start saying it right now after you yelled at me. Poltergeisha.
Talked about the transition from lobbying into strategic advisory, and then kind of a, some type of coalescence around having a private equity fund that would have this unique access and understanding of a regulatory environment in DC. Again,
Got it.
to be clear.
How many times do you think you met Joe Biden during the course of your relationship with Hunter?
How many times? I should have this off the top of my head since I've been asked so many times. Probably.
You definitely yelled at me. I was embarrassed.
Same thing, 20.
So I got one last question for you, and we'll do a much longer interview and get the entire story. But we found this letter, kind of amazing. It's from January 20th, 2011, which I think puts you in your late 30s, mid to late 30s.
Right.
Okay, so you're a younger man. This is from the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, to you personally, and it's personalized here at the bottom. Devon Archer, Rosemont Seneca Partners, that was your partnership with Hunter Biden in Georgetown. Dear Devon, I apologize for not getting a chance to talk to you at the luncheon yesterday. I was having trouble getting away from hosting President Hu Jintang, who was running China at that point.
President who? Who's on first? I'm just messing with you. Who's on first?
I hope I get a chance to see you again soon with Hunter. I hope you enjoyed lunch. Thanks for coming.
Sincerely, line squiggle.
Sincerely, Joseph R. Biden Jr. P.S. Handwritten, happy you guys are together. So there are many levels here. But here's the Vice President of the United States saying to you, a man in his mid.
I think that's part of it, Luna. The guy was a straight bootlicker for the Bidens, but he's telling the dirty secrets. They must have cut him out of something or fucked him over. So, I'll give a listen.
Mid-30s, who's not a government official. I'm sorry I was occupied with the guy who runs the world's largest country. I would much rather talk to you, and thank you. What was he thanking you for?
Well, first of all, it's a lovely letter, and it was.
It's quite enthusiastic. It's a little weird, though, right?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of the beginning of our partnership, and he was thanking me and thanking Hunter, I think, at the end of the day, for bringing this idea of this government regulatory strategic advisory business into the private equity world. And I think he was excited about the prospects for Hunter, and he was just thanking me. I think it was a nice gesture.
It was a nice, for sure.
For sure.
Very polite. It gets a 10 on the etiquette scale.
Hi, Devon. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to meet. Next time you come, we could talk about how I get a percentage of whatever business deal you're trying to buy from me, Father Vice President of these United States.
But he's a Vice President of the United States,
Right.
and he's talking about foreign business deals with you and thanking you for that.
I think, again, it goes back to my earlier point I think I hit the jackpot in finding the regulatory environment or company that can navigate right to the top. But, obviously, as time was told, being a little bit too close to the sun ends up burning you.
For sure. And it did you, and
Absolutely.
you suffered greatly for it. And this is not a criticism of you. I would think as a business guy, you use every advantage. These are not business guys. This is the Vice President of the United States. He's not allowed to be working on businesses with foreign governments while he's Vice President. I don't think.
Not that I know of.
That does seem like it would be something that might not be allowed. But, they're allowed to do it anyway.
But here he is.
Right.
Amazing. We'll be back. Devon Archer, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's just a little interview. We have the full hour-long one. Hour, 3 minutes. We're going to get into this, guys. So should we get a little carried away, I would appreciate everybody smashing, smacking, tapping, touching, liking, hitting, licking, maybe even flicking the like button. You share it out on your social media, and maybe even consider hitting up the slabs. Unlock a new dono. Get some violence going. Let's fill up Hunter's Blow Fund. Get a horsecock / song, whichever you prefer, or if you want to go big on it, you can you can hit the McKinley. Get a McKinley package. Anyway.
So where are you from, and how did you grow up?
So from Long Island. I was
Yep.
born in Seacliff, Long Island, which is a little Victorian kind of hippie town on the North Shore of Long Island. born on the same street as my wife, Dayton Street.
Wow.
Yeah, and so for the first 3 years we were together on the same street. I'm a year older, so her mom used to babysit me when I was to eat Cheerios off the floor where she was pregnant with her, which was a pretty funny story. And then I moved to Roslyn Harbor, which was a mile away. And then we went to nursery school together, ended up in the North Shore school districts. My mom was the art teacher at Glenwood Landing
I'm shocked.
School, and went to North Shore High School. We were, prom dates senior year, and then dated for a bit in college, and then reunited after college some years later. But Long Island ended up.
What set that
Yeah,
in like socioeconomic context? Is that like a really rich part of Long Island or middle class?
No, we were middle class, very much middle class. My dad worked in the city. He was in he worked for Levi and Christian Dior in sales, and my mom was an art teacher, as I said. So I actually went. She was my art teacher K through 6. So
wow.
Yeah, so that was
So
it was
pretty
a very
normal
very normal,
American.
very middle class. 3-sport athlete. Lacrosse, winter track, football. Very kind of, even though it's Long Island and close to the city, it's kind of very Americana.
Ugh, Long Island, gross.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
Surprisingly.
So then you go to Yale for lacrosse.
I did. Well, I went to Yale for the academics, but we like to keep that. Yes, but lacrosse was a big part of me being admitted. Absolutely.
What did you think of it? Was it a different world from the one you were from?
Yale, yeah, absolutely. It's a long time ago to reflect back, but it was certainly there was a big culture shock, both academically and socially, immediately, like first weekend of school. So,
In what way?
just it was I got to school and there were without naming names, I was at the first weekend of school I wasn't in New Haven but out in the Cape with folks that the highways in New York were named after, and large condiments and tires and stuff like that.
Large condiments. Okay.
So it was definitely a big culture shock, but I adapted pretty quickly from a academic standpoint. The academic rigor was certainly from a public high school in Long Island relative to Taft or Exeter or Andover. There was a quick learning curve, but it was attainable. And then socially, I think I did a fine job as well too. So ended up at Yale. Went through 4 years. We had a successful lacrosse career there.
This is so Archer, and not this Archer, Sterling Archer. It's lacrosse. I did it for lacrosse. It's ridiculous. These things are so incestuous when you really take a step back and look at it. It's so incestuous. It's so fucking gross. Oh, we went to Yale together. We just worked together. His dad's the vice president, and my company just happened to work with him. Ugh.
Which was an absolutely incredible experience, and kept you in line, kept you in shape.
Yeah.
Less distracted from everything. And graduated. I ended up, a quick stint into your world. Ended up working on the Olympics for NBC for Bob Costas.
This dude definitely owns a tactile neck. I could see that.
Down at
that's pretty cool.
In '96 in Atlanta. And then went on to take a job at Citibank. So that's where I got my first Asia experience. I was fascinated with Vietnam and had studied some contemporary American history in college. My dad was a veteran. He was a Marine, served in combat on the Hai Van Pass.
In Vietnam.
In Vietnam. So he was in Vietnam when he was 23. I'd gone on a trip around the world, and really just one of the stops was Vietnam.
Pinky. It's black or slightly darker black.
One of my.
Had he told you about it when you were growing up?
He did. We were a little bit irreverent and would tease him about it and get dressed up as fatigues and tell him we're knee deep in rice patties and
trying to elicit a flashback or something.
Trying to elicit PTSD maybe. Yeah, we were.
You guys want to help elicit PTSD from whatever dickhead he's talking about? You can hit up one of those violence donations. I think we all need it.
We were a little wild, me and my 3 brothers and sisters. So he didn't talk about it much, but we tried to bring it up a lot. It was kind of.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was.
So you wound up working for Citibank in Vietnam.
I went up getting.
I will say the one thing that's kind of bothering me about Tucker on Twitter or whatever he's calling this is that all of the guests, most of the guests so far, save for Ice Cube and a couple others. And kind of fucking like Andrew Tate. Who gives a shit? Tristan Tate. And apparently Tristan Tate lied and said they don't do the webcam business anymore and all that while it is still up and active. Like, why? This guy, why? Get some good guests. Tucker Carlson, you can get some really good guests.
Job with Citibank in Vietnam. I kind of orchestrated it through an uncle that had a relationship with Citibank. And yeah, ended up getting a management associate job there. Moved to, they just opened. Doi Moi was kind of underway, which was the, not.
And these people don't even try to hide how incestuous it all is. Yeah, they got me a job at Citibank in Vietnam. My uncle knew somebody, and so you knew someone over here. Ugh.
Not necessarily privatization, but the opening of Vietnam.
Shut up! Sorry. Be quiet! How dare I talk during my own show? Pinky for 5. Don't you guys want a song? Did you see the message in Butt Makers sent? What, Butter Maker? What? In Butter Makers? Huh? Did you see the message in Butter Makers?
Post
the Buttermaker. We talked about this.
The war, the conflict, the war of American aggression.
Yeah.
But I do agree. You guys should want a song, and I'm already like halfway done with it. I'll get the. It's in her Discord too. Do you know how many Discords I'm in? I'll have it done tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. But I do agree. You guys should want a song. We got new Pinky Salmon songs too, which makes it even cooler. But thank you for the 5, Pinky.
Been coached to say as if you live in Vietnam for some time. So went there, was a management associate, was in Hanoi for a year, and then a couple of years in Ho Chi Minh City, and ended up at Citicorp.
This just popped up on my Twitter feed. White House cocaine belonged to, quote, Biden family orbit member. So, we know whose cocaine it was. Like, we know. Don't we? We all know. Why do you think we have a goal at the stream for $500? Because we lost it at the White House. Someone in the Biden family.
Asia Capital Limited, where I was in private equity. So
wow,
that was the beginning.
Where'd you go after Vietnam?
After Vietnam, there was a nonprofit that had come through to produce a film about Vietnam, which involved a bike ride.
Unnamed first son.
On mountain bikes, from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City. It was
Long
an
way.
18-day ride, 1,200 miles. And we had a production team actually video it. They asked me at Citibank to sponsor it, so I wrote a letter to New York and said, "Can we sponsor this amazing event?" We've got 100, NVA disabled soldiers, and we've got 100 American veterans, primarily disabled, and we got on bicycles and hand cycles. I piloted a blind veteran that had been shot near Khe Sanh, and spent 18 days on a bike going over those memories. And then, actually, this is how I left Citibank. I got a call. So this is an amazing experience, yada yada. I'm sitting at my desk at Citibank in Ho Chi Minh City, or I forget what office I was in. Got a call and said, we had such a great time with you riding on the bike. Would you come back and produce, be a co-executive producer on this film? And you could get a job. One of the benefactors of the charity was a Goldman guy. One was at Equitable Financial at the time. And they're both the CEOs or senior partners. And they're like, we'll give you a job. You have the training at Citi. Just produce the movie for us. And so I went back, and we ended up, selling. I worked very closely with a great colleague down in Charlotte. We sold
I'm honestly, it seems like every bit of success this dude has ever had has all come from knowing the right person. And then when you know the president / vice president, you're just hooked in, full stop. Like there is no getting out. This sounds so fucking ugh.
We sold the film to NBC, title sponsor. We sold it to Reebok as a title sponsor. Got Dick Enberg to do the intro. Got Bruce Springsteen to donate a song.
I'm getting the same thing there, Fustonia. He's kind of hardcore, giving me the creeps. I think I need the Pinky song.
Yeah, Shut Out the Light, and it was a great success. We won the Emmy in '99. So
amazing.
Daytime Outstanding Program Achievement. So 1 for 1 television production. This is my
So you're an Emmy Award winner.
I am, yeah.
Amazing. So what'd you do after that?
So after that, I ended up going the one.
He is definitely willing to suck promotion out of some Russian guy's cock with your golf cart battery.
One kind of principle at Equitable
Use
Financial.
sweet fish every day. Keep that skunky cunt away. Sweet fish.
I forgot about that one. I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to hear a Pinky song. Thank you, Daryl Lowe, knocking us up to 20% of the way to goal. We are on our way there, man. We are definitely on our way. Thank you so much, Daryl Lowe. I, for one, would like to hear a Pinky song as well. It has been a while.
Move over to New England Financial. So we taken a new job as the chairman and CEO of New England Financial. I went into the special, strategic, it was a strategic management group, and did a little bit of, it was primarily like almost like an in-house management consultant in finance, like across the business. They put me on a lot of different special projects, and that was my job for the next couple of years, and then we were actually bought by MetLife. And so when New England Financial was bought by MetLife, I went down to New York very quickly in that acquisition, but my boss, who was the CEO and chairman, became the president of individual life at MetLife, a much bigger organization, so it wasn't as interesting an opportunity. So I went out and
He's got calluses on his knees.
started a technology company with one of the consultants I'd worked with previously, one of the managers.
Isn't this just Tucker softballing this guy to get him comfortable so he'll dish on the Bidens? I really hope so, man. But like I said earlier, Tucker has... You can get literally anybody on. Like, literally anybody. I don't know why you waste time with this, but, yeah.
Management consultants, I think it was at Arthur Andersen. And we started a tech company and sold that in 2004 to Coactive Marketing Group, which was a NASDAQ-listed company. And then from there, so that was kind of an exit while I was working very closely on the Carry for President campaign. So I was a volunteer. I was essentially raising capital, organized some different, I guess, surrogate tours and bus tours with some celebrities, stuff that's since backfired. But that campaign tag in 2004, it seemed to work. And basically was poised through kind of the success that I had in the fundraising that I was going to go and take a job in the White House. So I thought I was, going to work in small business, or there was some other, there were all the larger kind of bundlers. I was a baby bundler. I think I was identified as in some in the New York Post at some point. But I ended up, looking at those jobs and looking at, what we'd have to do in security clearance and all that. Long story short, I'd sold, Satara was the name of the company that sold. And, poised to do that, we thought we were going to win. And then, what was it, November 3rd, 2004, I basically hung a shingle and said I need a job because we lost.
I remember that. Yeah,
I just tuned out that whole thing, but I feel like I missed absolutely nothing.
yeah. The part where you lost.
The part, so I was in Boston. I think I was crying. I was with my wife. I remember we were in the hotel, like looking out at the acceptance stage, which there was a couple of people running, walking around the stage and
Drunk dudes.
Yeah, exactly.
People,
unexploded fireworks, and so that was an unsuccessful run. But I spent a lot of time and put a big effort into it, and it was a great experience. We thought we were doing a great thing, and unfortunately, it's hard to beat an incumbent.
So 2004 November, you're you're married, no job.
Yep, we're without a job, and I team up with a partner, and we start Rosemont. We start Rosemont Capital, and Rosemont Capital starts really as in the private equity world, which in something called a fundless sponsor. So when you're out and in private equity early, you go out as a fundless sponsor, and what that means is you don't have a pool of capital to kind of draw on. But
guys, I only had $50 million instead of my normal $100 million. I had to go 2 months without a job. But how am I supposed to deal with this standard of? This guy seems like such a fucking douchebag.
You identify an asset you think is going to be a good, good private asset that you can either take public or sell to another strategic buyer. So that's always kind of like the infancy of a private equity firm. And a lot of fundless sponsors succeed. A lot of fundless sponsors fall by the wayside, and a lot of managers at fundless sponsors just give up. But if you have some early successes, you can end up establishing a firm, and we ended up establishing a multi-asset class boutique firm that was was fairly successful. Most of our success was in real estate. We ended up buying a real estate management company, and that was called Rosemont Real. We renamed it Rosemont Realty. It was called BGK or some acronym, and we ended up putting the Rosemont brand on that after, I would say, 5 years in business at Rosemont Capital. And that business was sold later in 2015. But at our peak, we probably had $3 billion of assets under management.
$3 fucking billion of assets. No wonder the Bidens wanted to get in bed with this cat. Holy shit.
Which is kind of like your scorecard as a private equity manager. We'd done some great things.
Was Hunter Biden an original partner at Rosemont?
No. Hunter Biden, I met, really, or I had met him before, but had like substantive conversations at a lunch. I met in 2008, 2009.
So you were already.
It was 5 years,
established
Absolutely.
with the business by then.
Yes.
Hey, Luna, I have zero worries that this dude, of course he's lying. He's probably lying about everything. But I do think there might be some merit to the point that Tucker's just kind of letting him talk, letting him get comfortable. I think there might be something to that.
The business was quite established. We were in the, Rosemont Seneca Partners came along really at the time that we bought Rosemont Realty, so around 2010. I don't know the exact dates right now. It's a while ago. But Rosemont, we had initial fundless sponsor deals, so 2 or 3 or 4 deals that we did independently and worked those deals. Then we'd raised a fund, so we had a 2007 vintage fund, which is the year that you started. It's very clever. So we had a 2007 vintage co-investment fund, and then we actually raised, out of the financial crisis, we raised the TALF debt fund, so reinvesting in asset-backed securities, and then we had some other sub funds in technology. But ultimately, kind of the big successful piece of Rosemont ended up being Rosemont Realty, which was this acquisition of BGK.
So it sounds like you've got a perfectly self-sustaining business, $3 billion under management. That's success, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was.
So how does Hunter Biden get involved, and why?
So we had, we had this.
Got it. Wrong button. You thinking about that a little bit, buddy? You have to. You gotta think that answer through.
We had this lunch, and a mutual friend, or it wasn't even, I don't know how it was, but an attorney of Hunter's, another attorney, Hunter's an attorney as well, had introduced us, and we had a lunch, and we always, you're always looking for kind of an edge or an advantage as being a boutique, and certainly $3 billion was good, but as an AUM number, a scorecard, but in real estate, it's kind of a levered number, so
totally.
it's a little
exactly
exaggerated.
Right.
If you're Blackstone 4 and you have $3 billion, you have $3 billion of dry powder. If you have a small private equity fund with $3 billion under management, a lot of it's real estate. It's actually not the actual number you have in dry powder. So nuance, but
it's very liquid.
Yeah, exactly. It's very liquid, and you don't have the buying power. So you're always looking for an edge. You're always looking to expand.
I'm always looking. Oh, I talked about this yesterday, but I forgot to bring it up earlier. I do have that cartoon violence donation that's kind of an homage to Polly's. That's at $100.50. Should you feel like unlocking something cool and new?
And we had obviously, we were demystified to Washington just through relationships. And Hunter was in a stage where he was transitioning from lobbying to strategic advisory.
What's the difference?
Well, as I understand it, when You can probably answer it better than me, given your background.
There's a distinction, but no difference that I can see.
Right, exactly. So
one you register for, the other you don't.
Right. And I think that there are some legal, limits around registering when your father's the vice president. So I think that was what they ran into. But you can, and you don't. There's certain. Again, I'm not an expert on it. I know that was.
I think in Washington you can't lobby, but you can strategically advise.
Right. Exactly. There.
It just sounds like a very minimal distinction there. Crackhead to multimillionaire crackhead has to be a hard transition. I know, it's insane, dude.
There you go. Strategically advised. Right. It's a good nuance.
So what was the business that you imagined him helping you with?
The core business, what we really hoped for was raise introductions to capital, to raise more capital, right?
Yeah.
And deal flow. So the things that make a private equity fund successful, whether it's in real estate or asset-backed securities, or just going out and looking for operating assets, it's finding unique deals, and then finding the capital to actually invest in those deals and make them worth more money. Right?
Exactly.
But
you got to have the dough.
Right. You got to have the dough. So I think the in the back of our minds, the initial strategy was, okay, we can expand our network exponentially. Hunter and his strategic team know tons of folks, and it's a whole new world of high net worth individuals, family offices, institutional pension funds, which was a huge one that we thought that we could crack that never materialized. And yes, and so that was the genesis. But on paper, what we looked at was like, okay, why are you kind of teaming up this? And there was no investment in it. It was Rosemont Seneca Partners was kind of a dovetail concept. It's not like
This sounds like a fake made-up business you'd hear on the radio in GTA. If you need something done, you need to contact Rosa Seneca Partners. We take care of all the things you need. It makes no fucking sense.
We didn't fund it, nor did they fund it. We just said they had their strategic advisory business. We had our private equity business. Let's combine forces, expand our network, and maybe get some help. Or maybe when we talk to a strategic asset that's, selling we had a company that sold body armor, for instance. Maybe we could get a military contract because someone in DC knew the Pentagon people. I mean, it's just simple kind of connecting the dots.
It is, but if I can just, and this is not a criticism of you because I lived there, I didn't see this either. But if you're looking for money, Washington logically would be the last place you would go.
Right.
I mean, I am looking for Streamlabs, but I don't think anyone here is in Washington, so I like my odds. At least getting halfway to goal.
You go to New York, or maybe Los Angeles, or maybe Dubai, or Milan.
I'm not going to New York or LA. I like my life.
Or places where people do business. Washington's not about business, it's about governance.
Right.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? And maybe a sign of deeper corruption that Washington is like the place you go to raise money.
Yeah, I think, where we were in this, in kind of the, in the world of private equity, we're a very small private equity fund at the end of the day. So the network that you're going to is more family office, high.
Isn't this where Patrick Bateman worked? Was a private equity fund, just a thing that did things?
Net worth individuals, and then maybe you get a breakthrough with a pension fund. So I think the fundraising elements of linking up with Seneca Partners was really that, but we took advantage of all the kind of strategic advisory work and the network that they had to promote to the assets, to promote to the other to people that were raising money from. Say, oh, listen, we have a DC office. We know how to operate.
But
this is going to give us
can I just
advantage.
ask? This is not related to you.
Yeah.
You were not able to get pension money, right?
No.
But do you believe having
What a douchebag.
operated in the
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but somebody driving outside the studio had those big speakers.
this world, pension funds are some of the biggest investors in
Absolutely,
the world.
they are
Of
the
course.
institutional investors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that political leverage allows people to get investments from pension funds? I mean, clearly it does.
In the world?
In the world,
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, we were not able. But
No, you weren't able to. But like the idea that a pension fund would make an investment decision based on political calculations is like the definition of corruption, isn't it?
I hate those. I like when I'm in them and hearing it, but being outside is stupid.
I think that I think there's an entire world and business that's been focused on trying to create those lines of demarcation. I mean, it's one of the biggest. I mean, all the pension managers. I mean, it's a whole world to. It's a bigger discussion. But yes, obviously that would be the ultimate form of corruption.
So just to sum up what I think we're hearing
Sure.
so far is that you're on a pretty conventional business track.
Correct.
You're working for a big bank at first, and then you decide to move into this burgeoning private equity world,
Right.
which really was exploding at the time. And then at some point, having gotten the business off the ground and it's succeeding, you look to Washington for opportunities there.
Right.
I wouldn't look to Washington for any opportunities to become richer. Washington is where you go to spend money to gain power, not where you go to make money with no power.
And you run to Hunter Biden or are set up with Hunter Biden.
Right. I'm set up with Hunter Biden, and again, at that time, it seemed like it was hindsight's 2020, but it
course.
seemed like an opportunity to just broaden our network, broaden our competitive advantage on the deal side by having this access or regulatory understanding of DC is how we properly say it, and maybe expanding our and getting lucky with a pension fund introduction.
Yes.
Or another large maybe there's a political donor that's a $1 billion family office on the West Coast that Hunter has a relationship with. So I thought that was enough reason to kind of not invest in a new company, but just flirt with a joint venture at the end of the day.
So, and you're in your early 30s at this point.
Yeah,
You're trying to
early
make your
30s.
way. You wind up, though, with this deal most famously with Burisma.
Burisma. Yeah.
Yes. How did that come about?
So the Burisma deal came about initially, the CEO, Zolszewski, and
It only took us about 20 minutes into the interview to finally get to the meat of what everyone really wants to know. What the hell is going on with Burisma? I know that's what I want to know. What the hell is this Burisma shit? What's going on?
Vadim, I'm going to abuse the name.
I have it here. I've got it right
Why
here.
don't you say it first, and then it'll.
I can't. I got to put my glasses on.
Pozharsky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vadim and Nikolai come through. They're working with they're in the network. Again, you're always expanding your network in raising capital and private equity, and work with this group, Tri-Global Group, which famously also worked with Mayor Giuliani, which was another one of their clients, which we found out later, but it was kind of interesting. They had on their fundraising list had Nikolai and Vadim, who were the CEO and the CEO, owner, and corporate secretary of Burisma, and they'd come through New York.
Pozharsky.
Yeah, there we go. We'll just use Vadim, I think. It's
Vadim.
So they come through New York. I was actually on a business trip in Asia, and they're taken through, and the Tri-Global Group says we're working on these things. One of the funds that we're marketing is Rosemont Real Estate Acquisition Fund 1, REEF.
God, these things, they sound so fake. They sound so absolutely fake. Like they're not real companies.
And they show it to them. And that's probably, I'll probably get the dates wrong, but that's maybe in the early, the 2012 range. Okay, so that's the first context. So we've got a placement agent working on Rosemont Real. They're on commission business with Rosemont Real Estate Acquisition Fund. They meet Vadim and Burisma. I don't know if they had known each other before, but there's this a mini Gark, as we call it, and a mini Gark and Vadim, who's the corporate secretary. They come through. They pitch. They give him the deck. I don't know if they spent any time on it. The deck being the marketing presentation for REEF. And nothing happens. They don't come in as an investor, but Tri-Global was successful in identifying some investors for us, not Burisma. Cut to 2014, and I'm in the midst of a trip to Europe, and we're doing a strategic deal with a large bank there, and I get there, late February, early March, and it happens to be the day that Putin invaded Crimea, a peaceful invasion of Crimea.
Oh, God, dude, just finish the sentence.
As they say. And so our deal falls through because there's all these these, basically it's like this huge paradigm shift, obviously after Maidan.
Yes.
And everything changed in Europe, and it became this, there's this new inflection point of Ukraine, and that really started there on those days. So needless to say, our strategic deal with the bank falls through for Rosemont Real Estate Acquisition Fund. So we're quickly pivoting, because in this at the same time we're raising for Rosemont Real Estate Acquisition Fund 2. So it happened to be.
Is anyone else having a real hard time following what this fucking dude is saying, or is it just me? Because I am very lost.
I happen to be at
lost enough, I should say.
a meeting, and Tregal says, well, you can are you still trying to raise capital? So would you like to meet with Nikolai Zolszewski to pitch your wares? I bring the deck to him. We go through the presentation, and he says, interestingly enough, he knows, obviously he's calculating. He had made some moves earlier, which I'll tell you about. Thinking about Ukraine and the former position that he had. So we pitched him the deck. He kind of looks through it, and I remembered he had some like crazy watch with like a, it was like a Ulysses Nardone with.
I appreciate everyone going. I stopped a while ago. You guys are very, very good listeners, and I appreciate every single one of you.
They're like an oil thing that was ticking. Like the second hand was like one of those oil wells, cranking like this. Little I know it was a natural gas rig, but so it was hard to decipher. But anyway, it was quite an impression. He again, for the second time, kind of ignored the real estate pitch, and mentioned in the meeting, he he was very polite, but he was obviously not interested in that. Mentioned, he said, President Kwasniewski of Poland has joined my board a couple months ago, and do you mind if he gives you a call? That was kind of like our departure.
He's describing in more detail than necessary how Hunter is helping him worm his way into DC and Ukraine. I think they're both getting a little bit out of this, at least a little more than they're claiming to be getting.
And I said, yeah, wonderful. Please follow up and, write a $100 million check into Rosemont Real Estate Acquisition Fund 2. So.
Yeah, just write me a cheeky little $100 million check. Ha, 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 ha.
We never had another discussion about that. And the next day, maybe 48 hours later, Kwasniewski and Vadim, who's the corporate secretary, who was not at the first meeting, but he was in New York, a couple years back. Kwasniewski calls me, says, you want to come to Warsaw? I want to, tell you about Burisma. And I kind of had a hint, but I didn't have a pure picture.
It was the president of Poland.
It was the president of Poland, yeah. Yeah, so it was.
So you happen to be over there trying to raise money for a real estate fund.
Exactly. I was there for a big strategic closing that got completely
blown up by world events.
Exactly, by world events.
So you're over there to raise money for your real estate fund.
A small loan of $100 million. For just $100.50, you can unlock a dope cartoon violence. Snoop Dogg isn't a meth addict. That's true.
Correct.
From the guy from Burisma, because he's just a rich guy looking to diversify. They make a ton of money selling natural gas.
Man, shut the Thank you. God damn. Greba Worm Tough. Greba Worm Tough was more honest than this dude. All I'm hearing is name drops and shell companies. This sort of shit should be illegal because it sounds like fleecing. It does sound a little fleecy. It just sounds a little bit fleecy. Thank you, Doomhammer.
Invest it.
Right.
He's not interested in your pitch. And he says, by the way, since you're here, I'd like you to talk to the president of Poland.
Yes.
Who then calls you.
Yes. Yes. It was coordinated by Vadim, but yes, eventually we somehow got connected on WhatsApp. And yes, calls me, invites me to Poland. I was on a plane. I was on a lot flight from, or whatever the airline's called. I think it's LOT, from JFK within a couple days. And I flew directly to Warsaw for 36 hours, sat down with Kwasniewski, and he said, listen, we've got a great opportunity, energy independence for Ukraine.
Snoot has not seen Lord of the Rings, no.
This company, Burisma, I joined the board. There's we've looked at your profile. I know, you got Rosemont. You can raise, and the idea was to raise outside capital for Burisma. So they were like, come join the board. It's a very high paying opportunity. It wasn't you know, we didn't talk details on that in that particular meeting, but he's like, trust me, and there's a chance to build an equity position in this business, and this could be, you know, the next Exxon of Ukraine or whatever. I think there's some discovery emails that talk about that. Yeah. So
Well, why wouldn't it have been? I mean, it was a real company.
Exactly, real company, incredible management team, you know, new age equipment.
But why you?
Why me? Because I was a bereaver.
You're a true bereaver, huh?
My God. I have never felt so angry as that one. I'm a bereaver. Oof, I am an unhappy camper after that statement. Feeling violent. I'm a bereaver. I'm a bereaver.
No, why me? It was.
Has the 1056 been hit yet? I don't see it marked. Then I don't think it's been hit.
No, it's just interesting because you're raising money for a real estate fund, but then the guy from the natural gas company says, talk to the president of Poland about joining the board of our natural gas company.
Right.
Was Hunter Biden mentioned at all?
Hunter Biden was not mentioned, though. I mean, I can't deny that they did some research about Rosemont Seneca Partners, but
because it just seems like
it was not mentioned. It was not mentioned to me.
It's a little. I mean, you sound like a very capable business operator, but not someone who specializes in the energy sector.
No, I've had a diverse portfolio.
Right. Well, now you know a lot about
now
energy.
I do.
Yeah, but then.
Right. Agreed. I had one energy investment that we had made in Texas, but that's true. I was certainly not, by any stretch of the imagination, an expert in excavating natural gas.
Right. But the president of Poland is asking you to join the board. I mean, by the way, lots of weird things happen in life, but I just kind of suspect that maybe this was all about getting Hunter Biden involved.
You know, I think that they saw an opportunity to raise capital. I think they thought that I was close enough to political powers that I don't think that was their initial intention, to be completely honest. I don't think they were like, I was a mark that they identified and then found Hunter. I think it was a little bit more natural than that. And at the end of the day, similar to kind of what happened in my fate, that, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So how did he get involved? That
is a damn good question.
As you go on with the progression of the story. So he's obviously a partner. We're always looking to incent each other and include each other in each of our opportunities. And what happened was I came back. I joined the board, or I started the process of joining the board. I did join the board. I think I was on the board in March of that year of 2014. Was probably my first month there. And then I came back, and Hunter was of counsel, and so
it's a fake job where people do fake jobs. Well, he was a counsel at the shell company. What the fuck?
What I did is I brought him on board, as counsel to legally represent the company and help them, and basically have a firm in DC that would look out for their best interests, or kind of their any kind of geopolitical.
I'm sorry. I'm calling bullshit on just this one thing, okay? So this is a city filled with law firms.
That's a good one. I don't know why it's repeating. I have to cut it down by a second, apparently. Hold on. What was that? 1056. I don't know why that's doing that. Why are you giving me such a hard time, Slabs? Huh? What's the fucking deal here, man? Save. Test. Okay, I guess it does nothing. I guess just turning it down does nothing. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Okay, save. If I have to fix it again, I'll deal with it then. Don't forget, Sin, or don't forget, comma, Sin is sitting here for our pleasure. Make sure to tip the ferryman if you cab, of course. Thank you, spoofers. I appreciate it. If you cab.
Where every...
Yeah, but Hunter was my partner.
I know. Just saying, like, this is a city where the #1 job for a
And I do appreciate the tips, sir.
college-educated Caucasian man is lawyer at a firm.
Right, exactly.
Right. And a lot of those firms deal with
Yes.
foreign transactions
Yes.
and business and whatever. Hunter Biden doesn't have actually like a meaningful history as a practicing attorney. I mean,
No, he's been in the kind of lobbying world.
So, I mean, that's an influence play, right? There.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think. Well, also, I think the firm that he's with counsel was prominent and had had a large business in lobbying. So I think,
Right.
It made sense, and it was also incenting a business partner of ours, and it was a business partner of mine. I think it was.
Yeah.
It made all the logic in the world, and I think if it stayed like that, it would have been, a little
History would have been very different.
History would have been.
So how did he wind up on the board of Burisma?
So what happened was we quickly developed. There was a team from Burisma that came into DC, did some meetings. There was a kind of a lead practitioner on the law side that was brought in to be like the, Hunter was a relationship manager, and then there was like a lead for what things that needed to be done. We need to lobby
Is
for this or that.
relationship manager, is that like a business card title?
It's generally like of counsel at these law firms. It's to make introductions.
Yeah, of course. I just love
I
that
want one of
phrase.
those. I should have gone to law school.
I aspire to be that.
No, it's a good
great.
gig if you can get it. Yeah. Anyway, so no, this is a natural progression. So we hire, and then
Is it? Is this the natural progression? Because nothing about this sounds natural. This sounds like fake and forgery from the top down.
so a month or two goes by. We're at an economic conference in Italy, Lake Como, which was nice. Beautiful
Or
hotel.
if I can say, as your friend Vadim calls it in a letter I want to ask you about in a minute that we got, is May of 2014. Following our talks during the visit to the Como Lake.
Yes, the Como Lake. Exactly. Lake Como. Absolutely. It was gorgeous weather, and it was May of 2014. And so, that trip at DC Vadim had been on that trip. I forget if there's other executives there, meeting at the law firm in the conference center or large conference room, and got a lot done, and it seemed to be off to a good start. They visited us, Vadim and Nick.
Dark Resurrect for the 1488. Howdy, Sin and Chat. I'm currently dying. Fighting a fever of 102 to 103. Tylenol and ibuprofen get it down to about 100. If it doesn't go down, I'll probably end up in the hospital. That's the shit I had a little while ago, man. Make sure you...
Nope, stop talking, go to jail.
Make sure you probably need antibiotics. It doesn't... I don't know, man. Good luck. I hope you feel better. Let me know what's going on with you, man. Fuck, that sucks. That sucks so bad. I was sick like that early June. It's the fucking worst. Luna, fuck this guy. Thank you, Luna. I agree.
Vadim
Luna's straight to the point. Fuck this guy.
had been on that trip. I forget if there's other executives there, meeting at the law firm in the conference center or large conference room, and got a lot done, and it seemed to be off to a good start. They visited us, Vadim and Nikolai visited us at the Villa d'Este at this economic conference, and Hunter, was of the relationship manager at the time of counsel, and they kind of struck up a conversation, and Kwasniewski was not there but on WhatsApp and kind of in the conversation, and I think similar to what, as opposed to like me being a mark in an orchestrated effort to get Hunter on board, I think they all of a sudden saw, what.
Can NASA even calculate how big of a bag of dicks this guys can choke on?
The relationship that I brought by doing this, and
No, spoofers, we're using real temperatures.
thought, wait, we can go a step further. We got the president of Poland. We've got this, a couple finance guys on the board. We've got a couple of Ukrainians and Cypriots for regulatory reasons in those, in those domiciles. And we can get the son of the vice president on the board. And they saw that opportunity and they made the offer. And I think
At the meeting in Lake Como.
at the meeting in Leas. Yeah,
So that's fast.
I was not at that meeting, but it was a meeting that was done in a sidebar and the idea came back, and I think a month later it was.
So what's so interesting, so here's this letter that I referred to at the Como Lake. And it's May 12th, 2014, 8:29 a.m. And this is from Vadim Pozharsky to you and Hunter. And he goes on, and it's kind of complicated about what he's talking about, corruption in Ukraine. But he gets here, he says, we urgently need your advice on how you could use your influence to convey a message, signal, etc., to stop what we consider to be politically motivated actions, etc. And that's from Vadim. So,
Right.
I think we all know, right? I think we're all aware about the politically motivated actions.
They figured it out right away.
Absolutely, yes. The term signal in every other kind of market or theater or whatever you want to describe, it's like a pretty, it's a well-used term. So signal, like the U.S. doesn't use it, but it's a very common term to send signals between government and business, because government can always shut you down. It's almost like
Right.
the shakedown kind of. I've tried to equate it to something, but you always want to be sending positive signals from that regulatory body, i.e. the government, to the business that you're not going to be shut down.
Right.
And so I think they're using in common term to them and sending back here to us and say, like, oh, I hope we're protected, kind of thing. That's the term signal.
Well, you just flat out,
Well,
just flat out says
yeah,
it.
exactly.
We urgently need your advice on how you can use your influence.
Right.
Right. So, and that's all kind of, again, just for context, it's pretty conventional.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what lobbying firms are for.
Yes. But then comes the question of General Shokan, the prosecutor.
Right.
Tell us, that seems to me, that's when it gets heavy.
Right. Okay.
So what was that?
He just cannot get to the point. He's incapable of getting to the point because I don't think there is a point.
So Shokin was I'm gonna get the dates wrong, but Shokin was he was the prosecutor, the head prosecutor in Ukraine, and he was taking a close look at Burisma.
So maybe not so different from an attorney general.
Right, and but he was taking, but much more case active, I think.
Right.
An attorney general is more of like a manager of
Right.
people that handle cases, and they have their independence.
But this guy's the law.
He's like the law, yeah. So the buck stops with him. Hence, the signals are more important in
Yes.
countries outside the United States. So Shokin is taking a close look at Burisma. There were allegations that some of the deposits or some of the reserves were not,
The floor is getting to the point this man has discovered levitation. Yeah, he's not Tim Scott roaming around the stage.
authentically acquired or whatever it may
Yes.
be. And so those were I think that was the genesis of the complaints. And there were always, being in Ukraine and being in that part of the world, there was always kind of challenges that they were facing. They're from not being able to get a visa to money being tied up in London. And this was just another, in a series of issues that law firms and strategic advisory firms were hired for to handle these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So the Shokin case was, he was taking a look at Burisma, and there was a big push by European leaders, the Atlantic Council, et cetera, to fire Shokin because he was corrupt. Like it's hard to kind of decipher who's, it's all.
Can I just
kind
ask
of
you,
corrupt.
just sidebar, like why would the Atlantic Council
He would have, yeah, it's ridiculous.
be getting involved
They have,
in Shokin
well, I
here? I mean, that's
yeah. I mean, I think I don't know on the Shokin piece. I mean, again,
this is the lead prosecutor in Ukraine.
right.
So if Ukraine is actually a country with sovereignty and not just a colony of, say, the neocons in the United States, like why wouldn't they just let Ukraine deal with their own? Like why would Western powers even get involved in who the chief prosecutor in Ukraine is?
That's a question that I don't know.
I couldn't control myself. So, but within Burisma,
Right.
this Shokin was considered a threat to your business. Obviously.
Shokin was considered a threat to the business. I think anyone in, again, you got to get the signals to the government. I think anyone in government.
Good luck, Dark Resurrect.
Was always a threat, and always trying to shake down these businesses that were highly successful and enriching the owners and the staff and the board and whatever. And so at the end of the day, Shokin was taking a look, and again, if I wasn't involved in Shokin or any of this, but he was a threat. He ended up seizing assets of Nikolai, a house, some cars, a couple properties, and Nikolai actually never went back to Ukraine after Shokin seized all of his assets. And the case was, I mean, and obviously this is all out there in the world. The case was that Shokin, there was all this pressure to fire Shokin from this, the larger community, and then he was fired, and then somehow Burisma was let off the hook. I mean, that's what the story.
Crazy how this company just gets away with stuff. Wow, I'm shocked. I am absolutely shocked. Guys, could you imagine why this company would get away? Nope, stop talking, go to jail. You guys are pretty damn close to taking Alyssa Dottie out of Stream Boss, though. Should you want to go into Friday as the current Stream Boss, you know what to do.
And Joe Biden, of course, was the driving force behind his firing.
Yeah, he was involved in that. There's obviously video.
Involved? I mean, Biden bragged at Council on Foreign Relations, they had $1 billion coming from IMF, and I said, if you don't fire this man, you're not getting the $1 billion.
Right.
But I'd fire him out of a cannon.
It's, I think on this one, it certainly wasn't made clear to us at the board level, that was a favor to be done. The narrative, I don't know the narrative, and I don't want to, I don't want to lead anyone down that kind of path. That's what happened, because I don't know the narrative.
But Joe Biden knew that his son was on the board of this company that was being hassled by the prosecutor whose firing he was calling for.
Right.
Yeah. And this took place 3 years after he sent you a letter saying thanks for all the work you're doing with Hunter. So clearly he would know this would benefit the family.
Right. I don't want to get it, but the narrative was that Shokin was already taken care of. That was the popular narrative. That's the only thing that
he was already on his way out.
Exactly. That was the narrative that was fed to the board.
Okay, so you were told when Shokin got fired that it had nothing to do with it.
No, we were told that was bad and we don't want a new prosecutor. Shokin was taken care of. So it's very...
Yeah, Biden ousted the prosecutor because he was going after the company, and the whole thing is so they don't have a prosecutor to go after the company. I don't know what's... Yeah, duh.
I mean, this is not checkers. This is multiple dimensions here. So a popular...
This is like Connect 4.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's no, I think in this particular case, it's pretty high stakes and pretty sophisticated. So the narrative that I was told was that. That's just, I've said it under oath and I'll say it again. That was the narrative.
That was the narrative. Did you ever, were you aware, do you have knowledge that Hunter spoke to his dad about Burisma?
Do I have knowledge?
Yes. Do you know that Hunter spoke to his dad about Burisma? Did you ever see them talk about it, hear them talk about it? Was Joe Biden?
No, I don't have knowledge of that, though I'd assume it.
You would assume it.
Right.
Who wouldn't assume it?
I would assume it in a...
Nope, stop talking, go to jail.
I know. I need to watch what I say. This is Smoke and Mirrors interview. Oh, fuck. I got a story for you. Smoke and Mirrors interview. The dude knows more than he's revealing, and it's obvious to fucking everyone. So when I was prepping for the shoot, we were going to do, or we did with All right, start from the beginning. When I was prepping for the shoot that we did with Poltergeisha over the weekend, I was looking through my attic and I found my fog machine. So I'm going to set this up in the studio. This will make for some pretty goddamn cool shots. So I set it up. I'm like, man. And I turn it on and it worked. I'm like, cool. So I did it and I let the smoke filter and I got it all foggy. I'm like, this is going to, and I turned on the lights and I had the lighting set up how I wanted. I'm like, this is going to be great. But then I forgot that my front two windows I can't open because I have sound barriers over them. My side window is broken The only window I could open was the bathroom window with a fan. So for like an hour and a half, I had to sit there with a fan in the window, filtering out all the fog from the fog machine. Like, oh, God, this is fucking cool. This is going to look great. And I was done. I was like, fuck. Did the smoke alarm go off? No, thankfully not. But I was like, fuck, man, this would have been so goddamn cool.
General sense of travel and that kind of thing. But on, like I've told a lot of people in the past, there was not business content conversations. It was the idea of signals and influence. The prize is enough in speaking or hearing or knowing that you have that proximity to power. No one is so unsophisticated that's been in politics for 50 years that Hunter is going to talk about, the last quarter's, how many billion cubic meters of gas we pumped out of the ground. So it's just, I think a lot of the narrative gets caught up on, over speculation of these conspiracy theories that are just not true. I think
that's not the way it actually works.
It just doesn't work like that.
So it's enough to be sitting at a meal at Lake Como with your new Ukrainian friends, and your dad happens to call, let's put him on speaker.
That would be it.
Yeah, right after he, ousted the guy who was trying to destroy your company. Yeah, it's totally normal. Whom the fuck is wearing socks at home? I do. I have hardwood floors, so I hate hardwood floors.
I think that's enough. That's the second most powerful man in the world. It's just how the world works.
So there's been a lot of effort on the part of Republicans to prove money transfers from Hunter to Joe.
Right.
And then there's the other brother, Jimmy, who I'm going to ask about in a minute. But so far there are hints of it, but we haven't seen the direct transfer. But did you ever wonder when you were in the Biden orbit, like, how do they live so well? I mean, Hunter grew up at a huge house in Wilmington. The family had this very expensive beach house. And how do you do that on a politician's salary? We don't pay our politicians very much.
Well, I think Hunter had a successful lobbying and advisory business.
Sure, but these are his dad's houses.
Right.
All of the dad's houses.
How does that...
Oh, man, this dude makes me feel, unnaturally violent. He really... Here we go. Thank you.
That's me. You're probably wondering how I...
Shotgun spree, the Kilimanjaro, kill catastrophe, kill apocalypse, open season, killionaire, killing frenzy, running riot, buck wild.
So fucking cool. Just felt like shooting I just felt like shooting. Fork Whist Gump, thank you so much, Mailman, for the 4502. Much appreciated, sir. Much appreciated. Damn, we are almost 40% to goal. Nicely done, guys. Nicely done. I wear socks in the house because I got hardwood floors. If I had carpet, I would be barefoot all the... That's weird. I was just talking about that today, too. I hate hardwood floors. They look nice, but dude, carpet is so much more comfortable. And Shelley's like, well, that's not the style. I was like, I don't give a shit. That's what I like. I like carpeted floors. Thank you so much, Mailman. And barefoot carpet, hardwood socks.
How does that...
It's the Don't Do equivalent of a good cigarette after a stressful event. Apparently.
Do you ever wonder, how do you do that?
Well, at that question, I really only was under the kind of tenure at the Naval Observatory, so I knew the government was paying. We were paying for it.
Yeah. No, of course, but they had these other houses.
Yeah, I was at Bo's house. I was at Hunter's house, but those were the houses. So that was not something that I often thought about, put it that way.
Okay. It's just interesting because you're coming from a non-political world on Long
Yeah.
Island, middle-class world, and you wind up in, around all these high flyers.
Right. I mean,
And some of them but don't have business jobs. They have political jobs, but they're living really, really well.
And that's the thing, is once you get linked up with the political people as a business worker, then guess what? You are doing just fine. People will buy your political power with cold hard cash. Like Mailman just bought $45.02 worth of my love. But he's going to get $45.05 of my love.
yeah, I thought the cost.
$500 for Hunter's Blow Fund seems a little bit low. Well, we can't even get halfway to that, so I think I said it fine.
The living was lower and what? I don't. It is pretty remarkable. It's
Pretty
beautiful,
weird, right?
Suburban place to live, and yeah, I mean, I think the money that's thrown around DC is significant. I mean, as far as lobbying contracts and legal contracts and all of the the bills that go out, and I mean, there's money flow. I mean, it certainly is.
But it sticks to the people who live there. Like the money's
Right.
supposed to go out to the whole continent.
Right. Yeah, that's a bigger discussion.
Doesn't Interesting. So when Biden called for Shokin to be fired,
Right.
very publicly, and then got it done, like, bam.
Right.
What did you think?
Again, the narrative. They've tried to beat this into my head a million times because it does work on paper as far as the the logical steps. But we were told that Shokin had already been taken care, that he was under control, and that this is going to be a whole big problem for Burisma now.
It's a huge problem.
Because Shokin, I mean, I don't know.
The guy was going to shut our business down, just got fired. Oh no!
It's just what it was. It was kind of pounded in.
I think this is what Tucker really wanted to get to throughout the interview, is how everything went down with the prosecutor and Burisma.
Into our heads. Obviously, as I look back in the rear view, it doesn't paper as well, but it it looks like there was something.
I'm asking you because you said at the outset that, well, first of all, that you liked Hunter.
Absolutely.
Who was a very likable, I can attest personally, a very likable guy.
Absolutely.
But that you thought it was, useful. He knows his way around Washington. His dad's vice president of the United States, all this stuff. It's all good. But that there was the Icarus problem.
Right.
That, like, if you use those contexts too much, maybe it hurts you. Maybe you get burned by it. Did you feel that when Shokin got fired, like, ooh, maybe this is a little close to the sun here?
No, on that one, I just was kind of listen. I was believing the narrative because we were in where I felt the Icarus was when he announced we were in Doha. As one is running around.
Yeah, you just go to Doha.
The royal family at another conference, and part of the benefits of actually doing the Rosemont-Seneca partnership, you're getting access in these meetings. Anyway, long story short, we're in Doha, and they release some picture on the website that Hunter had joined the board, and that was that was like the tipping point where Icarus had arrived a little too close to the sun.
Yeah.
And the rest, the rest of my story has, been a
Me neither, Baba Yaga. That's how I assume it's way fancier than it should be.
slow downward.
Yeah. The trajectory changed at that point.
It was like this, exactly. That was the Icarus moment. When I saw that release and I saw, it was the middle of night.
Burisma that had released that?
Burisma released it, didn't tell us, and it was like the most Googled news story like in the world for 18 hours. And I was like, this is going to be a different
because
world.
to a civilian, you're thinking, okay, huge, super lucrative Eastern European natural gas company,
incredible.
Sort of semi-employed kind of lawyer lobbyist from DC, like, what is he doing on their board? Like, it just seemed...
Right.
Yeah.
And then that it really, at the time, I was I didn't have, we didn't calculate the risk appropriately. And the rest is history.
So whether or not Hunter convinced his dad to come out against Shokin, and there's debate.
Right.
Shogun.
It was very clear that the Burisma guys were hoping to leverage Hunter's relationship with the vice president, his father.
Yes.
At one point, they told Hunter to, quote, call his dad?
Yeah, I think referencing the email that you put earlier, there was constant pressure to send signals, to leverage all of his, his dad included, but the Biden brand, all of the DC insider and relationships to help Burisma survive. I think that's at the end of the day, what we're talking about.
I mean, that was the
idea.
That's what he brought.
It was that ability to help on the geopolitical stage, keep them out of trouble, keep them out of investigations, unfreeze assets, unsuccessfully, unfreeze visas, and the first challenge, which was there was a 23 million pound account that was released to Burisma because of alleged non-cooperation by the prosecutor. I don't know if it's Shokin or the guy.
Non-cooperation, you fired, kid, you fired.
Before that, but that was successful, and I think.
Did Hunter help with that?
The perception of him being on the board probably provided a halo that helped with that, but no active. There was no active.
But they were not consulting him on like pipeline construction or wellhead design.
No. It was hiring lobbyists and law firms to and various like NGOs to help clear the path from regulatory roadblocks at the end of the day.
When they asked him to call his dad, did he?
I was not privy to the conversation directly, but they've asked. That was. Vadim met with his dad at dinner at Cafe Milano, a famous dinner at Cafe Milano. I did not listen to a particular call where they spoke, but I know that the request was made by Vadim a lot.
What did Vadim say to the vice president at that dinner at Cafe Milano?
At dinner was,
I just got to think of something real quick. I was so fucking high, I don't remember even attending. This creep smiles like a funny statue man who knows he's getting, or funny salute man who knows he's getting promoted. Thank you, Snarbs. Appreciate.
Politics, I think there was a World Food Program element, weather, nothing specific to Burisma.
But the idea was by having that relationship and by saying,
That sounded like such a big fucking lie. Biden brand being full of shit liar and admitted plagiarist. No, dude, I'm telling you, the Biden brand is literally political power.
That with the vice president in Washington, that gives him
yes.
SWAT.
Yeah, I think at the end of that's the, the prize, or the, being able to have, whether it's on, speakerphone or in person, to have, that person in direct contact, whether you're talking about, weather or, politics or what have you, that's the important part. I don't think, there's no relevance in asking, the vice president about, the gas,
right,
revenues or anything
it's
like that. It was never, it's enough. And the prize is that contact and that access to power.
What was the payment like from Burisma?
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
What did Hunter get? I mean, he famously made
it was
$83,000 a month.
It was 80. Yeah, it was taken into a company. It was 283. Like the contracts were around board seats, and then the kind of scope of work was him on the governance side, as we've talked about. And I was in, first to raise capital, but then after the Doha, Google situation where they announced him on the board, raising outside capital was out. So it became international expansion. So the payment was $2 million a year to one of our LLCs. There were other business activities that happened in that. We had to pay some of the Cap Intro guys that introduced us initially through the Rosemont Realty. So he, the payments were, and I think it's incredibly well documented. Initially, it was about $700,000 a year. It built to about $1 million, and then it was, I think, less for the rest of his tenure.
The second his father left the VP's office, it went down.
I think that happened.
You think that happened?
I think that I was long out of it by then, but I think I've been told that.
What about gifts? And this is a part of the world where people give gifts,
right?
And those gifts are a kind of non-taxable payment. You could argue.
You could argue.
Were there gifts?
There were some.
And remember, during this period of time, Hunter paid his dad like $20,000 a month in rent, and Biden never claimed it as income.
Birthday gifts, a watch.
Watch.
A watch.
Just Timex kind of watch, or
No, what was the watch? I believe it was a Hugh-Bolt.
a Hugh-Bolt.
I'm not actually sure. I shouldn't even say that. But I don't know. But I know there's a birthday gift. I've also been refreshed in my memory through the series of documents that have been put in front of me.
Yeah, through your testimony to the Congress.
It might have been.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a watch like that would cost like ballpark.
You know, $50,000 to $100,000.
Yeah. So real gift.
A real gift, meaningful.
So you're working in Ukraine, and just from based on our off-camera conversations, we're actually interested in the business.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of an interesting business, actually. It powers the world. So
Right,
yeah,
it powers the world. And
meaningful business.
Yep.
In your time in Ukraine, did you notice a lot of Americans running around from Washington, exerting influence over there?
You know what? I think obviously it's an important part of the world. I think for different factions of different opposing East-West types of views. So yes, there were a lot of Americans lobbying, USAID, State Department officials. There were a lot of Americans kind of
Because
working.
the picture you paint doesn't sound like a sovereign country. It really does seem like a protectorate or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't. And the protectorate might be an overstep, but yes, there is a lot of interest in Ukraine and who controls Ukraine, and that's it's a geopolitical conversation. Did
you ever see Toria Nuland there?
It wasn't more like 50K a month. It was somewhere in there.
We definitely. I never saw her in person, but she was definitely. I think that was her in her scope in her theater.
Did she have a lot of influence in Ukraine?
She did, yeah. She did. She was...
And God, I wonder why we're going to war for this country right now. That's insane. I literally have no idea.
It was constantly trying to curry favor with her. She was one that you wanted on your good side, as I remember. I don't remember the specifics, whether it was, there were some issues with one of the ambassadors mentioned Burisma as corrupt at some point. And that was a big thing, and there was like a big effort to try and redact that. I think there was some lobbying done to her or with her, but
did it get done?
No, obviously Burisma. I think Nikolai, who came to New York and ate at Cat's Deli back in 2012, looking at the real estate pitch, ended up in Cyprus. I think he's still there. So no, nothing ever worked with that. Though I do believe that at the end of the day, Burisma wouldn't have stayed in business so long. If Hunter was not on the board.
So they got
some
their
years.
money back.
I think they got some years.
Why did you
Do they
leave?
I left in something completely unrelated.
Because you got in trouble with another company.
Correct. Exactly.
And so you got off the board, but Hunter stayed on.
Hunter stayed on, yeah.
How long did you remain in business with him?
After we had the issue with that other company, I was no longer in business
With him.
with him. I was friendly. We retained a friendship for a couple of years, and then there was it's complicated. I can't talk about it because it's an ongoing case. But there was.
That's you're goddamn right, Luna. You are absolutely right. Victoria Nuland is a pile of human trash. She is right up there with Samantha Power and Harry Kissinger when it comes to fucking up the world. These people would actively sell our children, I say ours, the nation's children, to go to war and die if they can line their pockets just a little bit. It is ridiculous. They have nothing. They are not people.
There was a reversal of a conviction, and then there was subsequently that the reversal of conviction was re-reversed, and after the re-reversal, we kind of never spoke again.
For legal reasons, or was there enmity between
you? It was
you?
just no, absolutely no. There's
hey, Sushi Joe.
Again, looking back at the body of work, it was a very big strategic mistake for me to, be involved with him. And some of it was my fault because, quite frankly, I was pitching Burisma Rosemont Realty, and that ended up that the genesis of that was me. But obviously, the trajectory of my life would have been far different and arguably far better if I'd never met him.
And you didn't make that much money from Burisma.
No, I think it was, relative to the world, yes, it was a lot of money. Relative to my middle-class upbringing, it was a ton of money. But it wasn't life-changing money, and it was quickly exhausted on legal bills.
Yeah, I assume so.
So how have you, what's interesting in this conversation is you're very sympathetic to Hunter Biden, the person, like you like him, you still say you like him.
Absolutely.
You
His
work
children, I've been to their lacrosse games.
Which ones?
It's a good family, and they, they've got a great relationship, father and son, speak every day. I witnessed that for 10 years.
So, and you're
Well, they discuss how to get the 10% to the big guy, normal.
not, you work for John Kerry for president, so
Right.
you're obviously not
Right.
a partisan.
As a volunteer. But
Yeah, but you're not a partisan actor. I think it's fair to say you're not grinding
not at all.
political axe
absolutely not.
here. How have you been treated by well, you obviously are a Democrat or were a Democrat most of your life anyway.
Well, I was never registered Democrat. I was registered independent, but just for the record. But I have been treated
I agree, spoofers. War as a means of profit should be added to the Geneva War Crime.
by, the treatment seems to be the treatment of just getting out ahead of this and speaking the truth and just retelling my story. That a lot of people seem to be interested. A lot of the negativity seems to come anonymously. Obviously there's murmurs of different folks saying different things, but the threats and stuff like that seem to come from whether they're AI bots or people in a basement in Cleveland. Not to pick on Cleveland, but it might be. I don't know.
This motherfucker.
I don't know. I can't kind of pinpoint it, but it is definitely a bit of a scary time.
The reaction to what you've said in public, to what you said to the committee on the Hill, and doubtless to what you've been telling us in this interview, is that there's no corruption here at all. This is totally normal. Joe Biden had no role whatsoever in his son's business or knowledge of it. But
right.
How would that seems false?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think that's categorically false. I think that he was aware of Hunter's business. He met with Hunter's business partners. You found a letter that illustrates that he knew me.
And he's thanking you. He's thanking you for his efforts.
So I think that was, I think
your efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's not factually right. But in the same breath, there's no. I don't think Joe Biden's looked at a balance sheet or a cap
I don't think Joe Biden would know if you handed him any official paperwork what to do with it.
Table or what have you, or any financial document, probably ever.
Yeah.
So there
done
was
pretty well for not looking at.
Well, that's.
Yeah. So who's Jimmy Biden, his brother?
Jimmy Biden, his brother, that's Joe, the president's brother.
Yeah.
And he really picked up, post my, issues, and worked with him, in business that he got into in China and Romania, kind of after my tenure with Rosemont Seneca Partners. But I think he probably filled some void of, companionship and business companionship, in the years after I was basically.
Did you ever spend time with him?
Not a lot. 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4 times.
So he ran. There's not a lot written about him. He ran a nightclub for a while in Wilmington. I think that went under. Mm-hmm. But was it your sense that he had a high degree of business acumen?
He was always willing to. He was always willing. I have no real opinion about Jimmy, quite frankly. I know he likes Diet Mountain Dew. That's
Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I'm a big Diet Mountain Dew guy. But I never did a business deal with him.
Hey, Akira.
I socially interacted with him in a very
Yes, the Gavin Newsom vibe. I get that.
few occasions.
But did you think it's a little weird? So here's Hunter Biden, and here's the brother Jimmy with the Diet Mountain Dew. What is this exactly? This Biden brand. What is the business?
What is as a whole?
What is the business?
It's a diverse portfolio of. of opportunity.
It's a diverse portfolio of opportunity.
Yes.
Hunter and Jimmy.
Well, obviously, I mean, you've seen the, again, I keep referring to the rearview mirror. I mean, the portfolio has, exhausted, and Hunter's on to better things. So
well, he's an artist.
He is an artist, yes.
And I'm not gonna offer any reviews of his work, but I just have to ask, like, in the many years that in the 10 years you spent with him, did he evidence any interest in painting?
Not particularly, but he was very, he was a very well-read student of history. So he was far more interested in, I wouldn't say artistic ventures, but certainly not painting. That was a surprise.
It was a surprise.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
What is that?
A surprise is something that takes you unawares.
I mean, I think that after looking at the portfolio of our experiences,
Yes.
I might do the same thing. You might do the things because I mean, it's just. I mean, that's a long haul
For sure.
covered with tragedy and
Yes.
addiction, and then going through all that. I think you just have to have a reset.
That makes sense to me. Getting $500,000 for your paintings like 6 months after you start painting seems a little weird. No?
No, it's not that weird. Shut up. Why are you talking about this?
I mean, I'm not I mean, I do have smart artists in my family. I wish my grandfather got that, but yeah, no, that's.
Do you
good for
think
him.
your life has also taken, ups
Yeah.
and downs and
Right.
twists and turns you didn't expect. If you decided, like, in 6 months to start painting, do you think that you could get $500,000 a painting?
I don't. It depends on how the show goes.
Do you think that's one of the opportunities open to you in your diverse portfolio
That's really why I'm here.
to pitch your painting?
Exactly.
So
I'm starting.
a lot since the laptop came out. What'd you think of that, by the way? The
laptop?
Yeah. Were you shocked by that?
That was not great. Yeah, that was obviously.
Yeah, no shit.
Not great.
man.
That's in the not great category.
This is not great. Great. Yeah, that was a real bummer, I guess.
Yeah.
In the not great category. What did I think about it? I mean, it was an absolute shock that's perpetuated this, kind of nightmare that I've been living for the last.
Did he call
8
you
years.
when that came out?
No,
Yeah.
no, he did not.
Ooh.
No.
Because you're obviously on it.
Yeah, no, extensively.
Yeah.
Yes, not visually, but.
Right. Right. Not a single naked picture of you on that
There's
laptop.
not.
Thank Kevin.
Yeah, all over it, and it's just led to just incessant and never-ending media fodder that brings me back in. And
Last question. A lot has been
Yeah, it really looks like you're trying to get out, huh? Going on Tucker Carlson is you trying to get
written
out.
about his drug and alcohol problems,
Mm-hmm.
and the laptop is a visual record of those.
right.
How did they affect your relationship with him?
Well, it was he was for the initial part of our the 10-year of our relationship and business partnership. It was he was sober, so there was no that wasn't a part of our it wasn't part of our relationship. And then I think there's some some tragedy that fell upon him with his brother, and coming from an early past of tragedy. Things got hard mentally, and he slipped back in, and obviously that created some chaos, but that was created less effective kind of business decisions. Now, Burisma was already started, so that moment, that tipping point, had already happened at the end of the day, where the downhill spiral started, and I think a lot of those pressures of the media also contributed to it.
But you're tethered to this guy in business, right?
Right
And then
to jail.
yes,
Right to jail. Right away.
to jail.
Right to jail. Right to jail.
Right to jail. I'm getting the feeling they pass this guy around at parties like a joint. He's the only one smoking. Oof. Thank you, Doomhammer.
fall apart.
Right, and it was not. Yes, it was not a. He made a lot of efforts to to repair and go to rehab and get better. And then I, again, through another business that we're involved in, was kind of taken out, and then so I didn't go through the actual kind of full downward spiral and then rebirth. Only
You said
from
you were
afar.
taken out. Do you think you were taken out?
No, I can't comment on that. It's an ongoing case. So.
Probably not out of the realm of possibility, one suspects. Devon Archer, thank you for spending all this time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Well, that was a interesting interview. I don't believe most of what he said. I don't believe most of what he said. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you for coming and hanging out. We're going to cut a little bit early tonight. Thank you for all the amazing donations. Guys, have a lovely evening, and I will see you tomorrow for the AAA.